You ever wake up and feel like the world's against you? Like no matter what you do, something or someone always seems to block your way. You start asking yourself, why does this always happen to me? Why can't I catch a break? And before you even realize it, you built a wall of blame around yourself, blaming the job, blaming the people, blaming your past, blaming your pain. But let me tell you something real. That wall you built to protect yourself, it's the same wall that's keeping your greatness locked inside. The truth is, life was never supposed to be fair. It was supposed to make you fight. Because every single time you point your finger outward, you lose the power to change what's inside. You see, blaming is easy. It gives you an excuse to stay the same. It keeps you comfortable in your pain. It keeps you explaining your limitations instead of expanding your potential. But believing takes courage. Believing demands that you face the mirror and own your story. It's standing in front of your scars and saying, yeah, that happened, but it didn't break me. It's looking at the world that doubted you and saying, watch me. Because belief isn't building comfort. It's building those moments when your back's against the wall and no one's coming to help you. That's when you find out what's really inside you. There's a fire inside you that's been waiting to burn. It's that voice you keep trying to silence, the one that whispers, you're made for more. But you've let the noise of fear, doubt, and excuses drown it out for too long. You've let your circumstances convince you that you're stuck, when in reality, you're just scared to believe again. Because belief comes with responsibility. When you truly believe, you can't hide behind excuses anymore. You have to move, you have to build, you have to become. This is the moment where everything changes. Not when the world changes, but when you do. Because once you shift from blaming to believing, your entire mindset transforms. You stop asking why me and start saying try me. You stop looking for pity and start chasing purpose. You stop waiting for signs and start creating them. And that's when the world begins to move differently around you. Not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. So if you're watching this right now, I need you to lean in. I need you to lean in. I need you to feel this. This isn't just motivation. This is a mirror. Because deep down, you already know you were meant for something greater. You just forgot what it felt like to believe in yourself without fear, without doubt, without waiting for approval. But that ends now. This is your wake-up call. This is your moment to rise, to reclaim your power, to stop blaming and start believing. Because the world doesn't owe you a thing, but your future does. Accountability is the birthplace of power. It's the exact moment where weakness ends and strength begins. Most people don't realize that the moment they start blaming others, they hand over their power. They give away their control to circumstances, to people, to things they can't change. When you live in blame, you live in chains. You trap yourself in a story where you're always the victim, never the author. But the second you look in the mirror and say, oh no, this is on me, changes, you stop waiting for someone to fix your life. You stop expecting someone to save you. You realize the only person who can truly change your direction is staring back at you every single morning. That's accountability. That's where real transformation begins. See, accountability doesn't feel good at first. It burns. It stings. It hurts your ego to admit, I'm the reason I'm not where I want to be. But that pain is necessary. That discomfort is the key that unlocks your potential. When you stop hiding behind excuses and start owning your decision, you give yourself the power to choose differently. You start to see patterns where you fell short, where you got lazy, where you made emotional decisions instead of disciplined ones. Most people don't get this. You can't correct what you won't confront. And if you never confront yourself, you'll live the rest of your life repeating the same mistakes, blaming the same people, and staying in the same place. When you hold yourself accountable, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop saying, I can't because of my parents, my past, my environment. You start saying, I will because I'm built for this. You understand that life will always have obstacles, but they're not excuses, they're opportunities to grow stronger. Accountability gives you freedom. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's true. When you take responsibility for everything in your life, even the things that weren't your fault, you gain total control over your response. You can't always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose what happens through you. That's where power lives, not in blaming, not in complaining, but in commanding your response. The greats, the ones who actually make it, they all share one thing in common: radical accountability. They don't sugarcoat their failures. They don't make excuses for why it didn't work out. They face themselves with brutal honesty. They say, I messed up. I didn't prepare enough. I didn't give my all. But next time I will. That's the voice of someone who's taking control of their destiny. That's the sound of someone who refuses to live in victimhood. When you blame others, you stay powerless. But when you take accountability, you become dangerous because now you're in control of your own results. Accountability is about looking your mistakes in the eye and saying, you taught me something. It's about understanding that growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from responsibility. You can't evolve until you stop running from yourself. Too many people try to protect their ego instead of protecting their future. They'd rather defend their weakness than develop their strength. They'd rather justify their lack of progress than admit they didn't give enough effort. But here's the truth. You can lie to everyone else, but you can't lie to yourself. Deep down, you always know when you didn't give 100%. You always know when you took the easy way out. Accountability forces you to face that truth, and that truth is where transformation starts. It's not about guilt, it's about growth. People misunderstand accountability. They think it's about punishing yourself, but it's the opposite. It's about empowering yourself. When you take responsibility, you shift from powerless to powerful. You start seeing problems differently. You stop saying, why is this happening to me? And start saying, what can I learn from this? That question changes your life. It makes you a creator, not a complainer. Because the truth is, no matter how unfair life is, still your responsibility to rise. Accountability doesn't mean you caused it all. It means you'll handle it all. You'll adapt, you'll fight, you'll figure it out. That's what strong people do. If you look at anyone who's truly successful in business, sports, relationships, anything, you'll find one common trait. They own everything. They own their wins and their losses. They own their attitude, their preparation, their decisions. They don't point fingers when things go wrong. They don't waste time blaming teammates, bosses, or the economy. They take that energy and channel it into improvement. They say, all right, this is on me. Let's fix it. Our mindset builds champions. That's the mindset that separates dreamers from doers. Accountability sharpens your character. It turns you from a talker into a performer. The truth is, most people never reach their potential because they never look in the mirror long enough. They want to believe that someone else is the reason they're stuck. It's easier to blame than it is to believe. Blame gives you comfort. Belief gives you challenge. Blame lets you sit still. Belief forces you to move. When you take accountability, you destroy your excuses. You leave yourself no option but to grow. That's what makes it powerful. Once you stop pointing fingers outward, you start pointing your focus inward. That's when things begin to change. That's when your energy shifts from complaint to creation. There's something liberating about saying, I'm responsible for my life. It might scare you at first because it means there's no one else to blame. But it also means there's no one else who can limit you. It means the only ceiling above you is the one you built yourself. Accountability breaks that ceiling. It tears it down piece by piece, replacing it with possibility. You realize that even if your circumstances are unfair, your effort is still yours to control, even if you've been hurt, even if people betrayed you, even if life broke you. Accountability lets you take that pain and turn it into power. That's the moment everything changes. The moment you say, I'm done blaming, I'm done waiting, I'm done wishing. Because now it's not about what others did, it's about what you're going to do. Accountability makes you relentless. It makes you unstoppable because you stop depending on external motivation. You become your own reason. You become your own engine. You start moving not because someone told you to, but because you decided that your dreams are your duty. And once you live like that, nobody can take that power from you again. So stop blaming. Stop making excuses. Stop living in that story where you're powerless. Own your life, every piece of it. The good, the bad, the ugly, it's all yours. And that's the most beautiful thing you could ever realize. Because once you own it, you can change it. Accountability isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning. It's where you stop waiting for miracles and start becoming one. When you finally accept that nobody is coming to save you, you awaken the part of you that can save yourself. That's where power lives. That's where your real story begins. Belief is the foundation of everything you build in life. Without it, you can have all the talent, all the potential, all the resources in the world and still fall short. Because belief is the engine that keeps you moving when everything else is telling you to stop. It's the voice inside you that whispers, you still can, when the world screams, you can't. When you start believing in yourself, you stop asking for permission to be great. You stop waiting for validation, for someone to notice your effort, for someone to give you a green light. You realize that belief doesn't come from outside approval. It's built from the inside out. It's not about who agrees with you. It's about who you decide to be when nobody agrees with you. You have to understand that belief isn't something you just say. It's something you live. It's not about waking up and telling yourself, I believe. It's about proving it through your consistency, through your grind, through your resilience. Belief is tested when things don't work, when plans fall apart, when you give your all and still come up short. That's when your belief either collapses or grows stronger. Most people only believe when it's convenient, when things are going right, when the results come fast. But real belief doesn't need evidence. Real belief says, even if I fail 10 times, I'm still not done. I still know who I am. That kind of belief doesn't bend under pressure. It gets sharper, stronger, more dangerous. The truth is, every single person who's ever made it to greatness started with belief before results. They didn't see proof. They created proof. They didn't wait for others to say, you're capable. They told themselves that every single day until the world had no choice but to agree. Because belief is contagious. When you believe in yourself deeply enough, people start believing in you too. But the opposite is also true. If you doubt yourself, that energy radiates. People feel it. Life feels it. You start attracting situations that reinforce your doubt. That's why it's critical to protect your belief like your life depends on it, because it does. Your belief determines your pace, your persistence, your ability to rise after defeat. Without it, every obstacle feels like the end. With it, every obstacle becomes a lesson. Belief is what turns pain into purpose. It's what allows you to see meaning in struggle. When you truly believe in your mission, you stop looking at setbacks as signs to quit and start seeing them as steps that refine you. You start saying, oh, this is not happening to me. It's happening for me. It's happening for me. You understand that every disappointment, every rejection, every delay is shaping the version of you for the victory. But if you don't believe, you'll misinterpret that process. You'll think the universe is against you when it's actually preparing you. You'll give up just before the breakthrough. That's why so many people never see what they're capable of. They stop believing right before it gets real. To believe in yourself means to trust your preparation even when you don't yet see results. It's knowing that the work you're putting in today will pay off tomorrow, even if tomorrow takes years to arrive. It's having the patience to grind in silence, the courage to keep going without applause, and the faith to know that your time will come. Because belief isn't about seeing, it's about knowing. It's about holding a vision in your mind so strong that not even your current reality can shake it. Every time you say, I believe in me, you're planting a seed. And the more you feed that seed with action, with discipline, with persistence, the deeper its roots grow. But the moment you let doubt take over, you start killing that seed from within. You have to make a decision, not just once, but every day, to believe in yourself even when you don't feel like it. Because feelings lie. And some days you'll wake up full of energy, ready to conquer the world. Other days you'll wake up heavy, tired, uninspired. But belief doesn't depend on emotion. It depends on decision. You've got to decide that no matter what mood you're in, no matter what's going wrong, you're still going to move forward. You're still going to show up. You're still going to fight for your dream. That's what separates talk about belief from those who live it. You can't just believe when it's sunny. You've got to believe through the storm. The reality is nobody's coming to hand you confidence. Nobody's going to walk into your life and say, hey, now you're ready. You've got to crown yourself before the world does. You've got to wake up and choose belief, even when you have no proof that it's working. You got to talk to yourself like you already are the person you're becoming. Because your mind listens. Your body listens. Your actions follow the story you tell yourself. If your story is full of doubt, your life will reflect hesitation. But if your story is full of belief, your life will reflect momentum. What you believe internally manifests externally. It's that simple, but most people never master it. Just every single day, you're either feeding your belief or your doubt. Every decision, every thought, every conversation is pushing you toward one or the other. The question is, which one are you nurturing more? When you start believing in yourself, the excuses die. You stop saying, I'm not ready, and start saying, I'll figure it out. You stop saying, I'm not enough, and start saying, I'm growing every day. Belief makes you bold. It gives you permission to take risks, to fail forward, to keep swinging even when you missed every pitch before. Without belief, you play safe. With belief, you play to win. You got to believe so much that even if the whole world walks away, you keep walking. You've got to believe so much that even if it looks impossible, you still prepare like it's inevitable. You've got to believe so much that your fear has no room left to speak. Because that's when the shift happens, when your belief becomes louder than your doubt. People will think you're crazy. They'll think you're delusional. They'll laugh at your confidence. Let them, because belief isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. You don't need their permission to rise. You just need your own conviction. Belief is a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. Every challenge you survive builds it. Every mistake you learn from strengthens it. Every small win compounds it. But if you keep quitting every time you doubt yourself, you'll never build the mental endurance it takes to make it. The world will reward those who refuse to lose belief even when they're losing battles. That's the paradox of success. You've got to keep the fire burning even when you're standing in ash. Because as long as that fire is alive, so is your dream. When you stop blaming and stop believing, you rewrite the story of your life. You stop saying, I can't because of them, and start saying, I will because of me. You stop focusing on what you lack and start focusing on what you can create. Belief isn't blind optimism, it's focused energy. It's the discipline to keep showing up, not because it's easy, but because you trust the process. You trust that your hard work will make a way. You trust that your persistence will pay off. You trust that every late night, every early morning, every sacrifice is adding up. That's what belief really is, trusting your grind enough to never quit. So believe in yourself, not because it's popular, not because it sounds good, but because it's the only way forward. Every dream starts with belief. Every comeback begins with belief. Every transformation depends on belief. The moment you start truly believing, your entire reality starts bending in your favor. It's not magic, it's mindset. Once you believe, you begin to attract, to act, to achieve. You stop hoping and start knowing, and that's when your life changes forever. You can't talk about growth, success, or greatness without talking about accountability. Accountability is the bridge between talking and doing, between dreaming and achieving. It's the moment when you stop pointing fingers at everyone else and start looking in the mirror. Because here's the truth. Nothing changes until you do. You can't fix what you refuse to face. You can't grow if you keep blaming everyone around you for why you're not where you want to be. Accountability means taking full ownership of your past, your present, and your future. It's standing up and saying, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. That one mindset shift that can change your entire life. When you blame others, you give away your power. You hand your control to circumstances, to people, to luck. You tell the world, I'm a victim of what happens to me. But when you take accountability, you take your power back. You say, no matter what's been done to me, I'm still responsible for what I do next. That's real strength. That's real leadership. Accountability doesn't mean everything that happened was your fault, but it means you're responsible for how you respond to it. You might not have created the problem, but it's your job to build the solution. And that's what separates winners from everyone else. Winners don't wait for someone to fix their life. They fix it themselves. You have to stop letting excuses protect your comfort zone. Excuses sound beautiful because they justify inaction. They tell you it's okay to stay the same. They say you didn't have the time. You didn't have the opportunity. You didn't have support. But accountability doesn't care about comfort. It demands results. It's saying I didn't do enough today. I didn't give my best effort. I could have been more focused. That's uncomfortable, but that's where growth begins. The moment you start taking ownership of your shortcomings instead of defending them, your life begins to elevate. Because you can't improve what you refuse to admit. Accountability means holding yourself to a higher standard even when no one's watching. It's easy to show up when people are clapping for you. It's easy to grind when everyone's watching your effort. But true accountability happens in the dark, when it's just you, your goals, and your reflection. It's asking yourself, did I really give my all today, or did I just do enough to get by? It's the honesty that hurts but heals. Because until you're brutally honest with yourself, you'll keep lying to your potential. And the scary thing is, life doesn't reward effort. It rewards results. You don't get what you work for. A lot of people want success, but they don't want responsibility. They don't want responsibility. They want to be great without facing their flaws. But you can't fix what you ignore. If your mindset is holding you back, if your habits are destroying your progress, if your distractions are killing your focus, you've got to call yourself out. That's what accountability looks like. It's not beating yourself up. It's building yourself up through truth. It's saying, I know I'm not where I should be, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there. Because the truth will either break you or build you, depending on how you handle it. Most people run from the truth. Champions chase it. Accountability gives you clarity. When you start tracking your actions, your results, your patterns, you begin to see what's actually stopping you. You start realizing it's not always bad luck or lack of opportunity. Sometimes it's procrastination, laziness, inconsistency. And when you can identify the problem, you can fix it. That's the power of ownership. It gives you control. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. No one's coming to rescue you. No one's going to hand you success. You've got to be your own rescue team. You've got to wake up every day and say, I'm responsible for the quality of my life. That kind of accountability forces growth because it leaves you no room for excuses. The reason so many people stay stuck is because they love to talk about what happened to them instead of what they're doing about it. They replay their pain like a song on repeat, but they never take action to change the lyrics. Accountability means flipping that script. It's saying, yes, life hurt me, but I'm healing. Yes, I failed, but I'm learning. Yes, it's hard, but I'm not quitting. It's taking every piece of your story and using it as fuel instead of baggage. Because when you're accountable, you stop letting the past define you and start letting it refine you. Every mistake becomes a lesson. Every loss becomes leverage. The truth is, the people who win in life aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who never stop getting up. They fall, they analyze, they adjust, they go again. That's accountability. You can't run from your mistakes. You've got to face them head on, learn from them, and turn them into wisdom. Every setback you've ever experienced can either make you bitter or better. And accountability decides which one it'll be. When you're accountable, even failure becomes progress. Because as long as you're taking responsibility, you're still in control of the outcome. You've got to stop waiting for perfect conditions to hold yourself accountable. There will always be something in your way. Lack of time, lack of money, lack of support. But accountability doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. It thrives in chaos. It says, even if I don't have much, I'll use what I have. It's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. Some of the greatest success stories were built by people who had nothing but accountability. The refusal to quit, the refusal to blame, the refusal to settle. They built their dreams on discipline and ownership when everyone else was making excuses. Accountability also means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, not comfort you. People who tell you the truth, not what you want to hear. If everyone around you lets you slide, you'll never grow. You need people who say, you're better than this, you're slacking. You said you wanted this, prove it. That's real love, that's real leadership. Accountability thrives in environments where truth is spoken, where standards are high, and where mediocrity isn't tolerated. If you surround yourself with yes men, you'll stay stuck. If you surround yourself with people who demand more from you, you rise. The most powerful thing about accountability is that it doesn't just build success, it builds character. It turns you into someone you can trust. When you're accountable, your word means something. You start developing integrity, doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left. That's rare in today's world, and that's what makes it powerful. The people who live by accountability don't just achieve goals. They earn respect from others and from themselves. They become the kind of people who don't need to talk about greatness because their consistency speaks for them. Accountability also kills entitlement. It reminds you that nobody owes you anything. You want success? Earn it. You want respect? Earn it. You want freedom? Earn it. When you live by accountability, you stop expecting handouts and start creating opportunity. You stop saying, I hope it works out, and start saying, I'll make it work. You stop living by chance and start living by choice. That's the difference between the average and the exceptional. One waits for change. The other takes responsibility and becomes the change. At the end of the day, accountability is about freedom. The moment you take full responsibility for your life, you become unstoppable. Because now nothing and no one can hold you hostage. You're not depending on others for your progress. You're not blaming anyone for your situation. You own everything. The wins, the losses, the lessons. And when you own everything, you can change anything. That's real power. That's the mindset that separates dreamers from doers. So stop running from accountability and start embracing it. Stop blaming and start building. Stop waiting and start working. Every day you delay ownership, you delay success. But the moment you say, it's all on me, your mindset shifts, your effort multiplies, and your destiny starts aligning. Accountability isn't a punishment. It's the key to your freedom, your growth, your greatness. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. And when you master that, nothing can stop you because now you're the one in charge. When life doesn't go the way you plan, the easiest thing in the world is to point a finger, to blame the economy, your parents, your boss, your past, your circumstances, the people who didn't believe in you, the people who walked away, or the people who hurt you. But the truth is this, blaming doesn't fix anything. It only keeps you chained to the same pain you're trying to escape. You can't move forward while you're still holding someone else responsible for where you are. Because the moment you blame, you hand them your power, you give them control over your story, your energy, your destiny, and as long as you're blaming, you'll never start building. This is what most people never understand. Healing and growth aren't about fairness, they're about freedom. Life doesn't care who's at fault. It only rewards those who take ownership and move anyway. There's something liberating about saying, yeah, maybe they hurt me. Maybe life wasn't fair. Maybe I didn't deserve that pain, but it's still my responsibility to rise from it. That's the moment your power returns. Because accountability isn't about, it's about growth. The day you stop blaming is the day you start believing, not just in the possibility of change, but in your ability to create it. You begin to see that the person who can hurt you isn't stronger than the person who can heal you. You realize that while you can't rewrite the past, you can redefine what it means to you. You can take that pain and build from it. You can take that disappointment and use it as direction. But you can only do that when you stop waiting for someone else to make it right. People waste years of their lives waiting for apologies, for closure, for the world to suddenly treat them better. But that day never comes. The apology doesn't heal you. Your decision to forgive and move on does. The closure doesn't come from their explanation. It comes from your decision to stop needing one. Every second you spend blaming, you're delaying the life that's waiting for you. You're feeding the weakness instead of the warrior. You're nurturing the wound instead of building the wisdom of building the wisdom. And if you're not careful, that habit of blaming will become your identity. You'll start seeing yourself as the victim instead of the victor. And when you live like a victim, you'll always look backward. But when you live like a believer, you look forward. That's the difference between those who talk about change and those who make it happen. The truth is, no one's coming to save you. No one's going to feel sorry enough for you to change your life. That's your job. That's your mission. That's your responsibility. And that's the most empowering truth you'll ever accept. Because when you realize that no one owes you anything, you stop waiting and start working. You stop hoping for someone to rescue you and you become your own rescue. That's when you start to evolve into the kind of person who doesn't just survive, but thrives. You start believing that maybe all those battles weren't meant to break you, but to build you. That maybe every betrayal was just a redirection towards something better. But you'll never see that meaning if you keep staring at the mess. You've got to stop replaying what went wrong and start focusing on what can still go right. See, life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about extracting power from it. The people who win in life aren't the ones with perfect stories. They're the ones who took accountability when everything went wrong and said, I still got this. They're the ones who refuse to let blame become their identity. They believed in the process even when the process broke them. They didn't cry about the storm. They learned how to walk through it. And that's what you've got to do. Stop blaming, start believing. Believe that you still have time. Believe that you still have fight left in you. Believe that your circumstances don't define your capacity. Because the truth is, the moment you start believing, you start building momentum. And momentum is everything. It turns impossible into inevitable. It turns pain into progress. You have to understand that the mind loves comfort, and blaming gives you comfort because it excuses you from change. It lets you say, it's not my fault, and that feels safe. But safe doesn't build strong. Safe doesn't build success. Safe doesn't change your life. Growth begins the moment you take the uncomfortable step of saying, it's on me. And that's the voice of accountability. That's the voice of a transformation. That's the moment you take control back from every excuse that's been stealing your potential. You're not weak because life hits you. You're only weak when you refuse to rise. You're only powerless when you give your power away through blame. Because every time you blame, you're choosing to be powerless. Every time you believe, you're choosing to be unstoppable. So stop saying that they did it to me and start saying I'm doing this for me. Stop saying if they didn't leave and start saying, well, I'll grow because they did. Stop saying it's their fault and start saying it's my future. This is the shift that changes everything. Changes everything. It's the moment when you stop fighting for your limitations and start fighting for your liberation. You were never meant to live small because of someone else's mistakes. You were meant to rise above them, learn from them, and build something greater because of them. Every setback you faced has been preparing you to see that the only person who can save your life is the one looking back at you in the mirror. That's your hero. That's your solution. That's your redemption. In the end, you have two choices. You can keep blaming and stay the same, or you can start believing and become unstoppable. One keeps you stuck in the story of what happened. The other allows you to write a new one. You can't have both. You can't move forward while you're still dragging a weight of blame behind you. So drop it. Let it go. Free yourself. Because the second you do, you'll feel something powerful rise inside you. Belief. And belief is the spark that sets your whole life on fire. It's the thing that turns victims into victors, pain into power, and doubt into destiny. Stop blaming. Start believing. The world is waiting for the version of you that finally decides to. At some point, you have to look yourself in the mirror and admit that the world doesn't owe you anything. Not success, not respect, not peace, nothing. Everything you want, you're going to have to go and get it. You can't sit there expecting life to hand you your dreams like a gift. Because life doesn't reward wishes, it rewards work. It doesn't give trophies to people who hope. It gives them to people who hustle. You've got to understand this. The universe is not your parent. It's your mirror. It doesn't give you what you ask for. It reflects what you believe you deserve through your effort, your consistency, your discipline, and your mindset. So if you want something, stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for a perfect time. Stop waiting for someone to come fix your situation. You fix it. You build it. You go after it with every ounce of hunger you've got left in you. The truth is, the longer you wait for someone else to make things right, the more time you waste proving that you don't believe in your own power. Because that's what waiting does. It kills your momentum. It weakens your fire. And it blinds you from the truth that everything you ever needed was already inside you. You don't need more opportunities. You need more initiative. You don't need more luck. You need more discipline. You don't need approval. You need action. The people who win in this world aren't the most talented. They're the most relentless. They don't sit around asking, why me? They look at their situation and say, watch me. That's the difference between the people who talk about success and the people who live it. One group complains about what they didn't get. The other group gets up and creates what they want. When you take full ownership of your life, something changes inside you. You stop chasing sympathy and you start chasing results. You stop asking, who's going to help me? And start asking, what can I do next? That shift in mindset is what separates the weak from the strong. the average from the elite, the talkers from the doers. Ownership is power, is clarity. It's the understanding that even though you didn't cause everything that happened to you, it's still your responsibility to rise from it. That's maturity. That's growth. Because when you take ownership, you stop letting your circumstances define you, and you start defining your circumstances. You stop saying, I'm stuck, and start saying, I'm not done. And when you do that, your life starts to move. The doors that once seemed locked begin to open, not because they changed, but because you did. There's a dangerous lie people tell themselves that someday it will get easier, someday someone will notice, someday the world will give them a break. But that someday never comes. The people who make it don't wait for it someday. They act today. They show up when they don't feel like it. They grind when it's not convenient. They keep pushing even when they have every reason to quit. Because they understand that success is not about how you feel. It's about what you do despite how you feel. Waiting for motivation is another form of procrastination. You can't afford to wait for the perfect emotion to take action. You've got to move now with fear, with doubt, with uncertainty, and build your confidence through the process. That's how belief grows. Not by wishing, but by working. Most people fail not because they're not capable, but because they've spent their lives waiting. Waiting for validation, waiting for support, waiting for the stars to align. But the truth is, alignment happens after movement. You'll never know what's possible till you start moving toward it. That's the irony of life. The moment you stop waiting for opportunities and start creating them, the world begins to respond. Suddenly, the right people, the right doors, the right timing, they all begin to appear. Not because they weren't there before, but because you were too busy blaming and waiting to see them. When you decide to take control, you begin to see that life was never against you. It was always waiting for you to show up with conviction. You have to become the kind of person who doesn't just want success, but demands it from themselves. Not from others, from themselves. The person who wakes up and says, I don't care how I feel, I'm showing up. The person who refuses to complain about the work because they understand that the work is the gift. Because when you do the work, you change, you evolve, you stop depending on outside validation because you build inner confidence, and that's what separates leaders from followers. Followers wait for directions, leaders create them. Followers look for someone to blame. Leaders look for solutions. Followers wait for opportunities. Leaders make opportunities. So ask yourself, which one are you becoming? The one who waits or the one who works? The moment you stop expecting and start executing, your energy changes. You begin to walk differently, talk differently, think differently. You stop saying I can't and stop saying I will. You stop saying I will. You stop saying I'm working on it. That small shift in language changes everything because your words are a reflection of your mindset. And your mindset dictates your reality. When you take full accountability for your life, even your failures become tools. You stop fearing them because you understand they're part of the process. Every loss becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes development. Every rejection becomes redirection. And through it all, you start realizing that the only person who can stop you is you, not your past, not your pain, not your environment, just you. Ownership isn't easy. It requires you to confront uncomfortable truths. It forces you to admit where you've been lazy, inconsistent, or afraid. But those are the moments that define you. Because once you face your excuses, they lose their power. Once you take responsibility, your vision clears. You stop wasting energy on things you can't control and start focusing on what you can. Your effort, your attitude, your response. That's the only real control any of us ever have. And when you master that, you become unstoppable. Because then, even when life throws its worst at you, you'll know how to stand tall, adjust your focus, and keep moving forward. You won't waste a second blaming anyone because you'll understand that power and blame cannot coexist. The more you blame, the less power you have. The more you own, the more power you gain. So from this moment on, stop waiting for your life to get easier and start getting stronger. Stop waiting for a miracle and start becoming one. Stop blaming, stop waiting, stop doubting, and start believing, building, and becoming. Because the truth is, you've always had what it takes. You've just been distracted by excuses. You've just been numb by comfort. But deep down, that fire in your soul has been whispering the same thing all along. It's time to take control. No one's coming. No one's fixing it. No one's going to hand you the life you want. It's you. It's always been you. And the sooner you accept that truth, the sooner everything in your life starts to change. There's something powerful about choosing growth when staying the same would be easier. Most people never make that choice. They settle where it's safe. They keep doing what's comfortable. They keep hanging around the same people, talking about the same dreams, but never daring to chase them. Why? Because growth hurts. It demands that you leave behind everything familiar, bad habits, the fears, the stories you tell yourself, and sometimes even the people you love. But the truth is this: the only way to truly honor your potential is to outgrow who you used to be. You cannot stay in the same environment, think the same thoughts, and expect a new level of life. Change requires evolution. Growth requires sacrifice. And the person you want to become can't exist if you keep feeding the person you used to be. Every dream demands a new version of you. That's the price of elevation. You can't reach the next level holding on to the same excuses, the same comfort, the same mindset that kept you stuck before. The reason most people never reach their goals isn't because they don't have what it takes. It's because they refuse to let go of who they've been. They're too emotionally attached to their old self-image, their old habits, their old pain. They keep revisiting their past as if something new will appear there. But nothing grows backward. You can't water your history and expect a future to bloom. You've got to move forward, even when it hurts, even when it means walking alone, even when it feels like no one understands the vision you're chasing. Growth doesn't come with comfort. It comes with tension, resistance, and the pain of leaving behind everything that no longer fits the version of you that's evolving. At some point, you've got to stop identifying with your limitations and start identifying with your possibilities. You've got to stop saying, this is just who I am, and start saying, this is who I'm becoming. Because the moment you define yourself by your past, you trap yourself inside it. The job of your past is to teach you not to contain you. You are not your mistakes. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not the pain that shaped you. You are the strength that survived it. Every scar, every disappointment, every heartbreak was a classroom. It was preparing you for something greater, but only if you're willing to let go of the lesson once it's been learned. Too many people repeat pain because they never release it. They keep replaying old stories in their minds until those stories become their identity. But your identity should be rooted in purpose, not in pain. You cannot step into your future while dragging the weight of who you were. Outgrowing yourself means accepting that your environment might not grow with you. That's one of the hardest truths to swallow. The people you love, the friends you've known, the comfort zones you've built, they might not fit the new you. When you start growing, some people will start resenting you in your work. Not because you've changed, but because your change reminds them of their stagnation. You'll hear things like, you've changed, and that's the whole point. You're supposed to. You're supposed to evolve past the versions of yourself that play small to make others comfortable. You're supposed to level up, think differently, move differently, expect differently. If you don't, then what's the point of all the struggle? Growth isn't betrayal. Oh, it's alignment. You're not leaving people behind. You're leaving mindsets behind. You're not abandoning them. You're ascending beyond the limits they accepted. There will be days when it feels lonely, when your vision seems too far, your dreams too heavy, and your faith too small. You'll question whether it's worth it, whether all the sacrifice, discipline, and isolation are really leading you somewhere. That's the breaking point where most people quit. But that's also where transformation happens. See, growth always happens in silence before it's celebrated in public. A seed doesn't sprout overnight. It spends months buried in the dark, growing roots before it ever breaks the surface. That's you right now, buried but becoming, hidden but growing. You may not see the results yet, but every ounce of effort, every long night, every painful choice is building the foundation for the person you're about to become. So don't mistake the silence for absence. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean it's not happening. Growth is invisible before it's undeniable. You've got to stop asking for the process to be easy. Nothing about reinvention is supposed to be easy. It's supposed to stretch you. It's supposed to strip away your ego, your laziness, your excuses. Because only through pressure do you find out who you really are. Diamonds don't form without heat. Muscles don't grow without resistance. And character doesn't develop without pain. Every challenge you face is not there to break you. It's there to prepare you. The discomfort you feel while growing is not punishment, it's transformation. It's proof that you're becoming someone new. And the more uncomfortable you get, the closer you are to breaking through. Because what's uncomfortable to the old you is necessary for the new you. There's a version of you right now that still clings to comfort, that still wants to be liked by everyone, that still plays safe, still makes excuses, still settles. And then there's another version of you, the one you were born to be, the one who doesn't care what people think, the one who doesn't need validation, the one who doesn't need a perfect plan to take action. That version is waiting for you to choose it, but you can't have both. You can't live in your potential and your comfort zone at the same time. You've got to choose. Either you keep feeding your fears or you start feeding your future. Either you stay in the same story or you start writing a new one. Every time you decide to rise instead of retreat, you are rewriting your identity. Growth will require you to fail and fail often. But failure isn't final. It's feedback. It's a message from life saying, not yet. Try again. Adjust. Evolve. Every great person you admire didn't get there by never falling. They got there because they refused to stay down. They understood that evolution doesn't happen in success. It happens in struggle. So when things fall apart, don't shrink. Rise. When doors close, build new ones. When people doubt you, let that be the fire that drives you. Because growth is not about becoming better than others. It's about becoming better than you were yesterday. And the only competition that truly matters is between who you are now and who you have the potential to be. So understand this. Outgrowing your old self is not loss. It's liberation. It's the moment you realize you're done repeating cycles that no longer serve you. It's when you stop being loyal to your limitation and start being devoted to your destiny. It's when you stop waiting for change and start embodying it. You can't evolve without letting go. You can't rise without releasing. You can't win without working through the pain. So if life feels heavy right now, don't run. Lean in. That pressure you feel is proof you're in the process. You're not breaking down. You're breaking through. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding what's no longer you. And on the other side of that discomfort is the version of you that's been waiting. Stronger, sharper, more focused, and unstoppable. The question is, will you be brave enough to become them? There comes a point in every person's journey where the dream starts to test you. Not in a gentle way, not in a convenient way, but in the most brutal, unforgiving way possible. It's the point where your plans don't work, where people walk away, where your faith starts shaking, and every voice in your head starts whispering, or maybe you're not meant for this. Now, that's the moment that separates the talkers from the doers, the dreamers from the grinders, the ones who wish from the ones who will, because that's when life asks you the real question. How bad do you want it? Not in words, in action, in perseverance. And how many times you're willing to get up when it feels like you've been hit too many times to stand. Because the truth is, success doesn't belong to the smartest, the most talented, or the most gifted. It belongs to the ones who refuse to stop. The ones who decide that quitting is not an option. The people who make it in life are not those who never fail. They're the ones who never give up. You can't control how many times you fall, but you can control how many times you rise. That's what defines you. That's what builds character. That's what molds you into someone unrecognizable. Not because life made it easy for you, but because you refuse to let life break you. Every great story you admire, every person who has ever inspired you, they all share the same truth. They kept showing up even when it didn't make sense. They pushed forward even when the results weren't visible. They worked in silence when nobody believed in them. That's what perseverance really is. Doing the work without applause, believing when there's no proof, and grinding when nobody's watching. Most people never make it because they quit right before the breakthrough. They can't handle the darkness that comes before the dawn. They want the result without the repetition, the victory without the valley, the glory without the grind. But that's not how life works. Life rewards those who endure, the ones who take every failure, every rejection, every disappointment and turn it into fuel. You gotta understand, every setback you face isn't a signal to stop, it's a test to see if you still believe. Every no you hear is asking, do you still want it as bad as you said you did when everything was easy? If you only believe when things are going your way, that's not belief. That's convenience. Real belief stays when everything falls apart. Real belief fights when everyone else gives up. Real belief says I'm not stopping until I get what I came for. When you commit to never quitting, something inside you changes. You stop negotiating with your pain. You stop expecting comfort. You start seeing struggle for what it really is. Preparation. You start realizing that every obstacle in your way isn't meant to stop you, it's meant to strengthen you. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Because life doesn't test the weak, it builds the strong. Every challenge is shaping you for the opportunity that's coming. Every moment of pain is sharpening your hunger, your focus, your discipline. You can't build resilience in a comfort zone. You can't develop grit without friction. The fire that's burning you right now is the same fire that's refining you. You're being molded, not punished. The truth is, persistence doesn't feel powerful while you're in it. It feels exhausting. It feels like waking up every day to face the same mountain, carrying the same weight, with no guarantee that you're even getting closer. But what you don't see is that every small step, every disciplined day, every time you decide to keep going, you're building momentum. You're rewiring your mind for greatness. You're teaching yourself that quitting is not part of your vocabulary anymore. And when that switch flips, when quitting becomes unthinkable, that's when life starts bending in your favor. That's when opportunities start aligning with your consistency. That's when people who doubted you start watching in silence because they realize you weren't bluffing. You were built for this. There will always be moments when the grind feels lonely, when it feels like nobody understands the level of commitment you're giving. But you've got to remember, elevation requires separation. You can't fly if you're surrounded by those who refuse to leave the ground. While others are sleeping, you're working. While others are comfortable, you're stretching. While others are satisfied, you're hungry. That's the difference between average and unstoppable. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's persistence. The ability to keep moving forward no matter how many times life knocks you down. Because every time you get back up, you're proving to yourself that your spirit is stronger than your circumstances. Most people underestimate how long it takes to win. They think success happens in months. It takes years. They think consistency is a sprint. It's a marathon. And if you're not ready to commit for the long haul, you'll never taste the reward that only the patient and relentless earn. You've got to fall in love with the process, not just the prize. You've got to wake up every day with that fire in your chest, even when the results aren't there yet. Because the grind doesn't owe you recognition. It doesn't owe you applause. It owes you transformation. And transformation takes time. It takes pain. It takes endless repetition. You don't rise because you worked hard for a week. You rise because you refuse to quit for years. There's a version of you that exists on the other side of perseverance, a version you haven't even met yet. That version is sharper, stronger, calmer, wiser, but you'll never meet them if you quit. You'll never meet them if you keep starting over every time it gets hard. You've got to endure long enough to evolve. You've got to keep showing up long enough to see the growth you planted finally break through the surface. The grind is not just about building success. It's about building character. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle success when it finally comes. Because if you quit every time you face pressure, you're not ready for the weight of the blessing that's coming. So when you feel tired, remember why you started. When you feel like giving up, remember who you're doing it for. And when your mind starts whispering, this is too much, you look back at everything you've already survived and remind yourself, I've come too far to quit now. Because that's the truth. You've already endured too much pain, too many losses, too many battles to stop here. You're not the same person who started this journey. You're tougher now, smarter now, hungrier now. So keep pushing, keep fighting, keep believing. The grind will test you. It will break you down. But if you refuse to quit, it will also build you into something the world can't ignore. Unstoppable. There comes a moment in your life when you have to make a decision. No more excuses, no more blaming, no more waiting for someone to come save you, because nobody's coming. Nobody's going to fight your battles, nobody's going to fix your mistakes, and nobody's going to hand you the life you keep dreaming about. It's all on you, And that realization should not scare you. It should wake you up. It should light something deep in your chest that says, if it's on me, then I'm in control. Because the moment you stop blaming and start believing is the moment you stop being a victim and start being a creator. You stop seeing life as something that happens to you and start seeing it as something that happens through you. Every excuse you've ever made, every I can't, I'm not ready, it's not my fault. Those are chains keeping you in the same place. But belief, this is the hammer that breaks those chains. When you truly start believing in yourself, not just saying it, not just pretending, but actually knowing in your bones that you are capable of more, you start moving differently. You stop negotiating with your potential,